Hello and welcome to the fifth video in Aspire's guide to using VLOOKUP and if functions. In previous videos we've looked at using basic formatting, understanding the operators for basic formulas, using a simple sum function, using a more complicated lookup function, and finally we'll be looking at aim number 5, using an if function to decide what to display. Now, in previous videos we've looked at what it means to be a function. A function is a more complicated formula that Excel has given it a name for, so that we don't have to do the hard work. Last time we looked at the VLOOKUP function. This time we're going to be looking at an if function. Now, an if function also has 3 steps in the same way that a VLOOKUP does, but it's slightly different. What an if statement does is it goes away and looks at something and checks to see if it's true or false. We tell Excel to go away and have a look at a particular cell. So we can see that that's step 1. Step 1 is what do I need to go and check. Step 2, so what should I do if the thing that you've asked me to go and check is true? And step 3 is what should I do if the thing that you've asked me to go and check is false? Now hopefully this should make a little bit more sense in context. So we're going to imagine that we've got a question on an ICT test that looks a little bit something like this. If the total risk rating is less than 20, risk assessments will be done if there is a change in circumstance. If it is more than 20, they will be done annually. You can see that in this question is the word if, and that's usually the clue if you're doing your ICT exam that an if statement needs to be used. If the question has if in, we need to be looking at using an if statement. So let's open up our spreadsheet and see how to do that. I'm going to click into my final box, my final cell, which is I5. I'm going to go to the function button, which is in the top left next to the function bar, and you can see that my if function is here. If it wasn't, I could search for it in the function bar, but it is here, so I'm going to double click. And we can see the function arguments that take us through our 3 steps. First of all is the logical test. The what do I need to check? Now typically this is going to be using some of the more or some of the less common formula symbols like greater than, less than, equals to, or combinations of the two, greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. In this case we're looking to see if the total risk rating is less than 20, so we're going to be using the less than symbol. Okay, we can see that our total risk has already been calculated for us in previous videos, so we can use that. Our logical test is going to be look at cell F18. Tell me if it is less than. You can use our less than symbol, which is found by holding down Shift and the key next to M on your keyboard. So look at F18, tell me if it is less than 20. That's our logical test and our first step. If we click into the next step, you can see that we have value if true. That is, what do we want the spreadsheet to do if that is true, if F18 is lower than 20. Well, if it was lower than 20, we were going to say that risk assessments are done if there's a change in circumstance. So in this step, I'm going to write change in circumstance. Now, because this is text and not a number, I need to make sure I'm surrounding the text in quotation marks, which can be found by holding down Shift and the number 2. This ensures that when we do enter the formula, that Excel will show that as text. If we weren't to put those in, the function would not work. Okay, we've looked at F18 and found out if it's lower than 20. If it was lower than 20, we wanted to put change in circumstance. If that was false, if it was higher than 20, then what we wanted was annually. So again, we're going to type that in, making sure we use speech marks. If we click OK, we can see that Excel has automatically done that for us. It's looked at this cell, it's told us if it's bigger than or smaller than 20. If it was smaller than 20, it put change in circumstance for us. If we do something that's going to make that bigger than 20, you can see that Excel has automatically changed that to annually for us. It's also important to remember that when using an if formula, the steps that we want for 2 and 3 can be almost anything. In this case, it was quite simple. We just wanted some text in, but they could equally be a sum. If that was true, we might have wanted it to take 20% off. If it was false, we might have wanted it to add another 35, for example, and we can just put that in as a normal formula, as a normal calculation. In this case, we've kept it simple. Look at this. If this is true, put this. If this is false, put this. And that meets our final aim and objectives of this session. We've used an if function to decide what to display based on a logical test.